Chapter 41. After all, Zierda was still a sinner through and through. She could still move freely, but she was still a sinner. In the original work, in order to get rid of her punishment, she had even secretly contacted Tian Wuyao. The deal was that after Tian Wuyao became the champion of the Lion Heron Star Martial Arts Festival, her punishment would be lifted, and she would help Tian Wuyao recover her consciousness. Unfortunately, she didn't have the chance this time. Pfft, the light condensed on Dustless's fingertip shot out again and easily penetrated Zierda's knee. She immediately screamed. "Sir, I've already told you everything. Why are you still targeting me like this?" Zierda endured the pain and asked. Although her tone was gentle and respectful, and her attitude was respectful to Dustless, there was still hatred in the depths of her eyes. It was fine if this kind of person was unknown in the future, but once she rose to the top, she would definitely not let Dustless off so easily in the future. Therefore, this woman must die. "I'm really sorry. Thank you for your information, but you must die." Dustless's thumb flashed again and aimed at Zierda's head. The girl was startled. Then, her expression looked as if she was possessed by an evil spirit. She cursed with a sinister expression, "Damn scum, I curse you." Pfft. Before she could finish her sentence, the light beam swept out like a divine sword. Zierda's head exploded on the spot, and bright red brain matter splattered all over the ground. Dustless didn't feel guilty about killing this woman. Who knew how many crazy scientists like Zierda had died under her hands? It was best if she died. Alphalia was a living example. Although she had miraculously survived and became one of the strongest witches in history, the price she had to pay was that she had lost her humanity forever. She had probably been destroyed by Hilda, and this time, he would take revenge for her. Before leaving, Dustless burned down this evil laboratory, including some of the human materials. All of them were buried in the sea of fire. This could be considered as helping them escape. By the time Dustless returned, today's competition had already ended. The students of the Star Guide Academy were not very lucky. Their opponents were extremely powerful. Dao Kiran and Sha Gong Shayi were scared but not in any danger. As for the others, they were sadly eliminated. For example, Lei Shida was defeated as soon as he appeared. By the time they returned to the Star Director Academy in the evening, Elena had already recovered and could walk around safely. "Sir, if you have any tasks for me, feel free to tell me." Elena respected Dustless as if he was her second parent. If it wasn't for him, the two sisters might have died without a complete corpse. "You just need to rest." Dustless waved his hand. He didn't really care. He didn't have anything important to give to Elena. "But I'm not used to always cheating you for food and drinks." Elena looked at Dustless with a troubled expression. "You're quite an honest person." Wuchen looked at Lena strangely. This woman trusted him so much that she would even do it if he asked her to die. "But if you really want to do it, I'll give you a task." Dustless narrowed his eyes, shooting out a ruthless light, and said, "In case something uncontrollable happens, you go and kill the entire Sky Mist Ling Do family." "Understood." Elena nodded without hesitation and then quietly left. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it was the morning of the next day. It was time for Dustless to participate in the second round of the Star Phoenix Martial Festival. Unfortunately, his opponent was World Dragon's 7th Academy. One of them was called Li Xinyun, ranked 9th in World Dragon's 7th Academy, and her sister was called Li Xinhua. "I heard you defeated that pair of trash yesterday. Looks like you're not bad. But don't think you can defeat us siblings today." Li Xinyun's eyes were unruly as she looked at Dustless and Yuli's with a gloomy face. "In the end, it's just good luck." Li Xinhua also had a disdainful attitude. Did these two idiots eat gunpowder or something? Who are they venting their anger at? Dustless was secretly depressed. He and Yuli seemed to have never offended these two Chinibu patients. Those two fellows were originally our prey. Since you two killed them, we'll start with you too. Li Xinyun's eyes were filled with hostility. Even though they were all from the same school, He and Li Shenhua were from the water faction, while Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen were from the wood faction. The two factions were like fire and water, and were completely hostile to each other. Originally, Li Xinyun and Li Shenhua wanted to take care of those two from the wood faction, and take the opportunity to attack Fan Xinglu's power. But the plan could not keep up with the changes. Song Ran and Luo Kunzhen were defeated the moment they entered the arena. They were beaten up by Dustless and Yuli's, which naturally disrupted the siblings' plan. Therefore, Dustless and Yuli's were hated by the siblings. Even if you're being unreasonable, you should know when to stop. World Dragon Academy having students like you is simply a disgrace. Yuli said in annoyance. The siblings' eyes were very annoying, as if they were looking at insects. Hee hee. I hope you two can still be so arrogant later. I won't let you leave so easily. I'll have to torture you. Li Xinyun's face was distorted, and Li Shenhua also revealed a sick smile. Likewise. I also have the same plan. Dustless responded, and his face was brewing murderous intent. These two little perverts had personality defects, and their personalities were similar to sadomasochism. In the original work, they tortured Yuli so much that she almost lost consciousness. Therefore, Dustless also hated these two siblings, and took the opportunity to cripple them. Chapter 42. This wave of framing was really powerful and extraordinary. Even Dustless couldn't find fault with it. Perhaps even Xiao Zhuwu thought that he was the mastermind behind it. Do you agree or not? Ming Wu leaned over and naturally laid beside Dustless. She purposely opened her collar and exposed her snow-white skin. If you agree, there will be a reward. Ming Wu blinked her seductive eyes. Her burning gaze almost melted Dustless. Anyone who was looked at by her would feel their heart racing and their blood boiling. Dustless did not fall for it. He raised his hand and rubbed the girl's head. All right, you can go back. You just want to speed up your sister's IS construction project, right? I'll just give the order. This was not a big deal. It was just a matter of Dustless's words. I knew you're the best. Hearing this, Ming Wu smiled and blushed. She took the initiative to leave a kiss mark on the right side of Dustless's face. Hee hee. If there are any women looking for trouble with you in the future, just leave it to me. I'm the best at solving girls' problems. Ming Wu clenched her fist to show off to Dustless. Hearing this, Dustless rolled his eyes. He did not even need to think about it. This girl must have done something bad to someone else and then pushed the blame onto him. She even said that it was his order. Then I'll go back. After achieving her goal, Ming Wu skipped away. I'll go to Ming Wu's place to have a look. It would be best if I could explain it to her. But according to my estimation, that kid probably won't listen. Dustless looked at Ming Wu's back and also got up to leave. It would have been fine if she had just casually beaten up Xiao Zhiwu. The key point was that Ming Wu even stripped her naked in front of everyone. How could a girl like Ming Wu endure this? In front of Xiao Zhiwu's dorm, Dustless pressed the doorbell. Cough cough cough, Dustless coughed twice and put on a selfless expression. Ming Wu, I'm sorry about what happened before. I'm here to look for you, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Dustless's voice hadn't even fallen when an ear-piercing sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. Glancing sideways, he saw countless fiery lights flashing in his direction. Missiles? That's interesting. Dustless narrowed his eyes. His right eye suddenly turned into a mysterious blue and white eye, allowing him to see everything tens of kilometers away. Even a fly 10 kilometers away could be seen clearly. From this, one could see how terrifying and powerful the Tensigan was. In the sky 10 kilometers away, a silver-white IS stood in the sky. Its body was covered in black smoke. Clearly, it was this mysterious IS that launched the missiles. Bang 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 bang. The missile exploded before it even reached them. The guards of the IS Academy were not bad. It's probably the Silver Gospel. Dustless retracted his gaze. After some observation, he realized that it was an unmanned AI machine. Someone was controlling it from behind the scenes. Despicable bastard, how dare you appear in front of me? The door suddenly opened, revealing a fierce face. Who else could it be but Shinesheim? Still so fierce. It seems that you are not injured. You are very energetic. Wuchen heaved a sigh of relief and said with a faint smile, your sister has planned a performance for you to debut. Dustless looked at the horizon in the distance. His tone became meaningful. Although he only observed for a dozen seconds, Dustless could see that the silver gospel that attacked the IS Academy was quite good. There were as many as 4 propulsion devices behind it. The normal IS only had 2. There was also a huge gap between the 3rd generation IS and the mecha and weapons. It probably adopted some 4th generation IS technology. Other than Shinesheim, who else could create an IS that transcends generations? She probably wanted to use this opportunity to show the superiority of Red Toon to the world. However, I overestimated your strength. Looking at the silver gospel in the distance, it was not that Dustless didn't believe in Shinesheim. This kid just got Red Toon not long ago and didn't have much time to train. Secondly, this IS was obviously modified. Some of the technology was upgraded. It had the foundation of the 4th generation IS and was probably several times more powerful than the original silver gospel. If Shinesheim wanted to deal with it alone, it would be impossible. Me? Shinesheim's expression was also a bit hesitant. She wanted to back out. After being beaten up by Shinesheim, she realized that she was pitifully weak and began to question her own ability. If I go, I will only embarrass my sister and disappoint her. Shinesheim bit her cracked lips as blood slowly flowed out. She was unwilling to give up. With your current strength, you will be beaten if you go. Dustless nodded in agreement and then said slowly, I remember when I asked you to follow me, you refused. Who can you blame? If you follow me, you have seen Cecilia's improvement, right? Although Shinesheim was currently the strongest person in the IS Academy, according to Dustless's prediction, once Cecilia and Shinesheim fought, she, as the student council president, would lose. It was almost certain that there would be no accidents. Boom. 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 At the same time, explosions occurred in other directions of the IS Academy. Suffocating black smoke filled the air as giant fireballs appeared in the air. The smoke of war spread across the entire IS Academy. Whoosh. 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 Unknown IS appeared one after another like ghosts and attacked the school without restraint. They didn't even let the students go. This is all my sister's doing? Shinesheim clenched her fist in disbelief. What was the difference between this behavior and terrorists? Chapter 43. Leave her to me. Ulysses' beautiful eyes glowed with a scorching light. Li Shenhua treated her as prey, but she didn't know that Ulysses also treated Li Shenhua the same way. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, in front of Dustless, a large number of paper talismans shot towards him, all of them were filled with the words, urgent as the law order. Die, you arrogant fellow! Li Shenyun roared. His hands suddenly formed a hand shadow as he shouted, explode. Boom boom boom, the explosion talismans around Dustless exploded at the same time, fusing into a ferocious fireball that burned crazily on his body. Crackling sounds continuously came from it, as if a person was being burned. Is this guy really a Daoist? Why does he feel like a ninja? Dustless, who was in the fireball, slowly walked forward. As for the burning sea of fire around him, he ignored it. First, it was the clone technique, and then this kind of explosive talisman. No matter how one looked at it, it all looked like something a ninja would use. This brat, even if he doesn't die, he will shed a layer of skin. What? The smile on Li Shenyun's face suddenly froze, and she couldn't help but open her eyes wide. Dustless walked out of the fire with a relaxed expression. His expression was normal, and there were no signs of him being burned. Damn it, what kind of monster is this guy? Why didn't he burn? Li Xinyun's face was ashen, but the audience outside burst into an earth-shattering sound. So powerful. I think that Li Xinyun is finished. That's right, he will definitely lose. After fighting for so long, he didn't even touch a hair of his opponent. How can he participate in the Phoenix Star martial arts ceremony, with this kind of standard? I think he's just here to be funny. The audience outside were discussing and snorting at Li Xinyun. It was too embarrassing. She had created such a mess, but in the end, she didn't even touch the body of her opponent. You bastard, just you wait, I'll teach you a lesson soon. Hearing the ear-piercing ridicule, Li Xinyun's resentment towards Dustless deepened. Has this brat's head been squeezed by the door? What does it have to do with me if the audience outside is following suit? Looking at this kid's vicious expression, Dustless was also speechless. This kid's brain must have been hit with iron. You don't seem to have any more tricks up your sleeve. It's my turn now. Dustless gazed at the clones of Li Xinyun, formed a hand seal and spat out a sea of fire from his mouth, fire style, grand fire annihilation. Boom boom boom. Dustless spat out a vast sea of fire from his mouth. It was like a tsunami rolling out. Everywhere it went, not even a blade of grass grew. Even the ground was scorched black. Bang bang bang, those invisible explosive talismans all exploded, blowing the sea of fire into pieces. Like scattered raindrops, they sprinkled to every corner, and the sky was raining fire. Boom boom boom, however, it was useless. The sea of fire was too powerful and continuous. Even though the first wave was blasted into smithereens, the second wave, which was even more vast, continued to crush Li Xinyun. Damn it. Those clones were forced into a desperate situation. Their eye sockets were about to burst. Although the competition area wasn't small, the sea of fire was too big. They were all forced into a corner. Boom boom boom, the flames swept out with unstoppable force. The ground was scorched black, and those clones were turned into nothingness. You are the only one left, brat. Dustless glanced at Li Xinyun, who was the only one left. No matter how many clones you have or how many explosive talismans you have, it is all a matter of fire. Buzz buzz buzz, immediately after, Dustless lifted his right leg. Light beams were wrapped around it. He aimed at Li Xinyun's location and threw a kick. Light speed kick. Boom boom boom, the light beams landed on Li Xinyun's location and exploded like a time bomb. Tumbling flames and mushroom clouds burned fiercely. That brat didn't even have a corpse left. It seems like it is over. Dustless put his hands in his pockets and said indifferently, this boring competition is finally over. It is finally over? A sinister voice that sounded like a venomous snake came from behind. Li Xinyun appeared like a ghost again. He stuck out his disgusting tongue and said with a sinister smile, I'm sorry. Those that were killed by you were actually clones. Go to hell. At the same time, Li Xinyun threw out countless explosive talismans and stuck them tightly to Dustless's body. Is that so? Then you are really smart. Dustless smiled and praised. Even though his entire body was covered by the explosive talismans, his expression didn't change. His eyes were still as calm as an ancient well. This time, I will blow you up until you lose consciousness. Li Xinyun roared. He then shouted, explode. Boom boom boom, thousands of explosive talismans exploded at the same time. The momentum was shocking. Dustless's body immediately burned and turned into a terrifying flaming man. The power released from the explosion was extremely powerful. The ground under Dustless's feet was instantly blown into a deep pit. No matter who it was, they would die without a doubt under such terrifying heat. Ha 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 ha, you should be done for now. Not only will I eliminate you, but I will also roast you. Li Xinyun laughed maniacally. His eyes were filled with madness and had turned blood red. Commentator, are you an idiot? Why aren't you announcing the winner? Li Xinyun roared at the commentator after laughing proudly for more than 10 seconds. I'm really sorry. The school emblem didn't break and I didn't lose consciousness. There will definitely be no winner. A deathly stifling voice resounded behind her. Li Xinyun suddenly quivered and hurriedly turned around to take a look. To her astonishment, it was Wu Chen who was smiling behind her. Damn it! Li Xinyun rubbed his eyes angrily and flew into a rage. After confirming that it was dustless, he scolded, "You should have been burned into a cripple by me. Do you think you are the only one who knows how to clone? Idiot! The one that was destroyed by you earlier was also my clone." Dustless sneered. Soon after, his eyes turned cold. A radiance flashed in his hand as he slashed at Li Xinyun. Pfft! A bloody wound appeared on Li Xinyun's chest. Blood spurted out and he lost consciousness. Li Xinyun has lost consciousness. Star Guide Academy's Dustless wins. A few seconds after Li Xinyun collapsed, the commentator's voice echoed in everyone's ears. Chapter 44. What's the matter? Atlanta looked at her bewildered look and frowned. Because not only Fiore, but even Dustless's expression was extremely strange at the moment, revealing a rare trace of shock. I'm also very surprised. Why would a dead person suddenly resurrect? That guy was indeed killed by me, I can be 100% sure, but now, he's resurrected? Dustless was also full of doubts. Following his line of sight, he saw Archer standing on the ruined castle. Yes, it was the Black Archer who was previously obliterated by Dustless. In fact, not to mention Fiore, even Dustless himself was dumbfounded. He was sure that he killed Archer. But, what the hell is going on? Is he a corpse or a living person? Whoosh! Once again, the sound of arrows piercing through the air could be heard. Raising his head, he saw a large number of arrows flying towards him. Come here! Dustless shouted at Atlanta, and the chick immediately ran over. Shinra Tensei! Bang! Transparent ripples of power whistled, and the fatal arrows were all knocked away or broken. Archer couldn't break through this tyrannical repulsion at all. This guy seems to be wrong. Dustless glanced at Fiore, and his heart was even more puzzled. There was no doubt that the Black Archer's host was Fiore, but the wave of arrow attack just now clearly covered Fiore, but it also wanted to kill the host. This didn't seem like Archer's style. Why, Archer? Fiore obviously also saw the problem and asked absent-mindedly. She couldn't believe it because she and Archer didn't have a simple contractual relationship. Sometimes he was a teacher and a friend. Even without the restrictions of the contract, Archer couldn't do anything to her, but the reality was like a loud slap, slapping her in the face, and her empty eyes almost lost herself. Unfortunately, my master is no longer you, Fiore. Archer's tone was full of deep helplessness and complexity. It could be seen that this was something he couldn't change. What a joke, Dustless sneered and said disdainfully, how long has it been since I killed you? In such a short period of time, not only did you revive, you even found a new host? Atlanta and Fiore both nodded in agreement. This was too unusual. Of course not under normal circumstances, but Black Archer paused for a moment as he panted. It could be seen that he was also very shocked by this matter. After calming himself down a little, he slowly said, but with the help of the Holy Grail, wouldn't it be enough? That Sieg made a wish on the Holy Grail? Dustless's face also revealed a look of surprise. His previous doubts were quickly swept away. If it was the Holy Grail, then it was indeed not a big problem. In the eyes of many, it was an omnipotent wishing machine that could do anything. I'm really surprised. That Sieg actually made a wish to the Holy Grail. But why did he revive you? Are you very strong? Don't tease me. Dustless was still full of doubts. He frowned and said, even if that guy resurrected you for some reason, there is no reason for him to kill me. Could it be? Dustless suddenly thought of a figure in his mind. Was it because of the previous Black Rider, Alstofo? After thinking about it for a while, this was the most likely possibility. For Sieg, Alstofo was his savior. Not only did he let that kid go, but he even gave Sieg the Holy Grail. This kind of great favor. Sieg estimated that he would never be able to repay it all in his life. But later, Dustless killed the Black Rider. Well, to be exact, it was not Dustless who did it, but Atlanta. Of course, the most important thing was that Astolfo did not use his strength at all. He was completely thinking of suicide at that time. It's because of the rider that Sieg hates you. Black Archer once again raised his bow and aimed at Dustless. But even if that's the case, that guy relied on the Holy Grail to resurrect you. Can he kill me? Isn't this idea too ridiculous? If I can kill you once, I can kill you a second time, a third time, or even 100 times. Dustless announced expressionlessly. His voice was exceptionally loud. No. That's not my initial wish. Black Archer looked at Dustless with a gloomy expression. After a moment of silence, he said, all this time, I thought that the Holy Grail was omnipotent. But until the incident with Sieg, I realized that I was wrong. Oh. That kid's wish couldn't be fulfilled? Dustless raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. Yes. Black Archer nodded heavily. He looked at Dustless with a serious expression. Sieg's initial wish was for the Holy Grail to kill you, but the Holy Grail couldn't do that. In the end, his wish changed. He resurrected several powerful heroic spirits to kill you, and I'm just one of them. Is that guy crazy? Fiore and Atlanta both exclaimed. They couldn't understand Sieg. Why did he have to go through so much trouble? Since he liked the Black Rider so much, why didn't he just use the Holy Grail to resurrect him? Why did he have to make such a cruel wish? You can play like this? Dustless rubbed his nose, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Is this considered cheating? P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 rating plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 45. Do you know your crime? After examining Guillen for a moment, Veronica said coldly. Sylvia was stunned, thinking that she had misheard. She asked with a trembling mouth, Sister Veronica. Are you serious? Guillen, he might have been misled too. No, this is my choice. The simple-minded Guillen decisively ignored Sylvia's good intentions. Good, very good. Veronica's voice was full of killing intent. Sylvia's heart couldn't help but skip a beat. She begged Dustless to give her face in hopes that Veronica would be merciful. She simply thought that this sister would be merciful. Who would have thought, you have brought this upon yourself? This is a capital offense. Veronica's tone was unshakable. She said in a deep voice, Guillen, as my confidant, did not play an exemplary role. Instead, he secretly contacted the enemy. His crime is punishable by death, but, you have been with me for many years. Even if you have not made any contributions, you have worked hard. Take your own life as an apology. Veronica's voice was incomparably cold. Just as Dustless had predicted, Guillen would not be able to escape death no matter what. However, taking his own life was much more dignified than being executed. Take care of yourself from now on. It's getting late. Goodbye. Dustless only needed to hear the result. He stretched and got up to leave, leaving everyone with a view of his back. You can't be serious, right? Yak's mouth was wide open. She couldn't believe it even if she was beaten to death. Isn't this guy too cold? He killed him just like that? Even if it was a dog, after following its master for several years, they would have built a deep relationship with each other. Not to mention Guillen. He had contributed to Veronica's career and defeated many enemies. Now, he had fallen to the end of taking his own life. In the evening, the news of Princess Veronica's confidant, Guillen, taking his own life spread. The entire Ansari Dragon Knight Academy was caught in the whirlpool of public opinion. No one knew the specific reason, but it could be considered as saving Guillen some face. Meow, meow, meow. In the quiet room, there was a soft moan. Dustless, who was resting on the sofa, suddenly opened his eyes. What kind of show is this? Dustless frowned as he stared at the beautiful woman sitting on top of him, ignoring the saliva-inducing curves. It's too much to disturb someone's rest. The person who came into view had exquisite facial features and was extremely beautiful. She had a figure and a face, and long legs. She was impeccable in all aspects, and she even knew how to act cute. She was unusually tall and looked somewhat similar to Yak. This was not the first time they had met the person sitting on Dustless's waist. Her name was Nobby. Ah. What a cold attitude. Nobby pouted angrily, but Dustless did not even look at her. This guy was actually AI's memory clone. He seemed to have some special feelings for Dustless and would often come out to pester him. If you have something to say, just say it. Dustless looked at Nobby and closed his eyes again. Nobby looked deeply at Dustless. After a long time, she sighed and said unhappily, I'm afraid this is the last time I come out to harass you. Goodbye forever. As she spoke, tears fell from Nobby's eyes in disbelief. She seemed particularly sad and reluctant. Are you starting to put on a sad show? Seeing this, Dustless was speechless. He helplessly patted the girl's head. Can't you be a little more obedient? Don't play these little games all day. You're AI's after 5 years. 5 years later, she's still so childish. I'm telling the truth. Nobby squinted her eyes and enjoyed it for a moment. Then, she pushed away Dustless's palm on her head and emphasized, I've decided to fuse with AI's. They were originally the same person, so the fusion was naturally fate. Hearing this, Dustless's calm eyes rippled slightly. His bored eyes began to condense and emit bursts of light. Fusion? That's a pity. AI's will probably reject it. There was suddenly another person in her body. Although the initiative and control of the body, including the thoughts, were still with AI's, no one would be able to accept such a thing, right? You're right. When we were in the dragon workshop, I talked to her about a similar topic, but AI's rejected it. Nobby didn't mince her words. There was no need to hide this kind of thing. Even if AI's rejected it, she would still forcibly fuse with AI's because there were too many implications involved. It was even closely related to the future of the dragon race. What if I don't agree? Dustless asked. This seems to be between me and AI's. You don't have the right to interfere. Even though she already knew that Dustless was overbearing and unreasonable, Nobby still retorted unhappily when she saw his condescending gaze. This has a lot to do with me. Don't forget. AI's was born from absorbing my power. To a certain extent, she's my child. Now that you're fusing with her, don't you know how I feel as a father? Dustless's expression was sharp, and his eyes were sharp. He didn't seem to be joking. You're AI's father? Hearing this, Nobby's lips curled into a mischievous smile. Her body wrapped around Dustless like a snake, and she asked in a soft and coquettish tone, what kind of father would do such a thing to his daughter? You insatiable brat, who gave you the courage? Dustless's mouth twitched. His face darkened as he asked, are you secretly observing me? No, I'm just observing AI's. Nobby shrugged, as if it had nothing to do with her. As for what kind of indescribable thing it was, looking at Dustless's angry and somewhat awkward expression, she knew it wasn't anything good. Chapter 46. I can't accept this. The Black Lancer struggled violently with his 4 limbs. His hands were grasping at the air, the veins on his palms and the back of his hands were bulging, as if he wanted to strangle Dustless to death. Thinking about it carefully, you are indeed a little tragic. It was not easy for you to be resurrected, and it hasn't even been a minute, right? You didn't even have time to take a few breaths of fresh air before you were killed. I should at least apologize to you. Dustless seemed to really understand the Lancer's pain, and his tone sounded very apologetic. Ah. However, it would have been better if he did not say anything. After he finished speaking, the Black Lancer was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face was purplish red. He would not be grateful for Dustless's apology. No, it was not an apology at all. It was deliberately exposing his scars. "I curse you to die a horrible death." The Black Lancer's eyes bulged outwards, and his black eyeballs were bloodshot. His expression was like that of a demon who had fallen into hell. "A guy like you should," unfortunately, before he could finish his words, the Black Lancer's body dissipated. "You're next. How do you plan to die?" Dustless's gaze swept towards the Black Archer, and said faintly, "If I remember correctly, that move just now can only be used once a day." "Sharon. Next, what do you have to fight me?" The Black Archer frowned and did not speak for a long time. In fact, he was depressed because this guy knew too much. "Give up, Archer. With your strength, you can't kill Dustless. Please accept reality." Tears flashed in Fiore's eyes. "You're the only friend I have left. I don't want to lose you, I'm sorry, Fiore." The Black Archer did not address her as master at this time. He directly called her by her name, and said from the perspective of a friend, "Even if I agree verbally, my body will involuntarily carry out the command incantation's command. You should know this. In that case, I can only let you die." Dustless didn't hesitate. He decisively raised his thumb, and an energy ball containing strong spiritual pressure quickly appeared. As for the Black-Side Archer, with the command incantation's command, he picked up his bow again and aimed at Dustless. Just like Lancer, he was ordered to kill Dustless through a command curse. "Before I leave, I want to say something." Black Archer's face remained calm. He could feel the power of void flash in Dustless's hand. Even if Dustless was perfectly resurrected and regained all his strength, it would still be a huge threat to him, let alone a mere heroic spirit. "Lady Fiore, it's a pleasure to meet you. Please remember my name, Sharon." Black Archer finally smiled gently at Fiole. His handsome face was filled with gentleness. Even Dustless's expression softened. The clean and shallow smile was like a refreshing breeze, brushing away Fiore's sadness. Those clear eyes seemed to be able to speak. Not only Fiore, but even Dustless, an outsider, understood the deep meaning of Karen's words. If Sharon could survive, the two of them would become close friends in the future. It's a pity that the world is so cruel. 9 out of 10 things are not satisfactory. Dustless's compassion quickly disappeared. The void flash in his hand was thrown out in a straight line, and the archer also shot out a dense number of arrows. Void flash. At this moment, Fiore could no longer hold back the tears in her eyes, and they burst out. Boom, boom, boom. Void flash finally exploded on the archer's body. He disappeared on the spot, and the space where he was also blasted into a large hole. He was instantly killed by an overwhelming force. "In case Sieg can't find us for revenge, let's stay here, Atlanta." While speaking, Dustless had already used wood release to build some houses. "Understood." Atlanta nodded obediently, then quietly walked to Dustless's side, and asked in a soft voice, "Lord Dustless. This child is quite pitiful. Her family is dead, and she is the only one left. Why don't you take her in?" Atlanta was a kind-hearted person, and she sympathized with Fiore's experience. "If she can accept it, I don't mind." Dustless waved his hand, and he didn't care about this kind of thing at all. With light steps, Dustless walked into the wooden house to rest. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, a few hours had passed. The sky gradually darkened, and soon it was night. The night was full, and the stars hanging high in the night sky were glowing. In this hot summer, even at night, it was as stuffy as being in a steamer. A few gusts of wind swept across the grassy plain, blowing on people's faces, and it was particularly comfortable. Why did this happen? Didn't I die? How did I suddenly come back to life? Or, is everything that happened in front of me just a dream? Under the lush green tree, a golden-haired girl wearing medieval clothes and armor muttered to herself in a daze. She held a flag in her hand, which was painted with exquisite patterns that swayed in the night wind. The girl's beautiful eyes, which had been puzzled for a long time, suddenly lit up. Could it be that all of this is Lord Lord my ass, your lord is not great to this point. He has already laid himself to rest. What right does he have to resurrect you? This abrupt sentence made the girl extremely angry because she was a devout believer and a saintess. The girl suddenly turned her head and looked towards the source of the voice. She didn't see anyone, but she angrily rebuked, "Where did this heathen come from? How dare you speak to the revered Lord? Dustless?" After seeing the person who came, the girl's beautiful eyes widened in an instant, and her rosy lips opened to the maximum limit. She was very surprised. "I haven't seen you for a while. You seem to have changed a lot, ruler." Dustless walked over with his hands behind his head. "No. You're no longer ruler now. The Holy Grail War is over for you. It's not too much to call you Jean, right?" This blonde girl was the ruler who willingly died in the hands of Dustless. In fact, ruler didn't want to be enemies with Dustless, but due to the rules of the Holy Grail War, she chose to die in the hands of Dustless in the end. "Could it be that you resurrected me?" Jean asked with a strange expression. This kind of unbelievable thing was impossible if it was someone else. But if it was Dustless? Jean still remembered Atlanta, who was resurrected by Dustless. Chapter 47. Xiaozhu's heart was filled with complex emotions. Like an overturned bottle of 5 different flavors, sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy. "You should reflect on yourself." Dustless took a deep look at Xiaozhu before he turned around and left. But as soon as he left, an uninvited guest blocked his way. "Follow me." Mingyue Wu forcefully pulled Dustless's hand away. She used so much force that red marks appeared on her wrist. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Dustless didn't struggle as he allowed the girl to pull him. He studied Mingyue Wu's frozen expression. It was a rare moment of seriousness. "Did you find Summer of Woven Spots?" Dustless's face turned cold. If his previous interactions with Summer of Woven Spots were purely for fun, then this time, he had crossed the line by infiltrating IS Academy with terrorists. Before, Dustless could turn a blind eye because of Woven Spots' Chien, but this time, that kid had committed a capital offense. "No." Mingyue Wu slowly shook her head before she said in a sinister tone, "If I catch that guy, I will make him regret living." Mingyue Wu's tone was filled with unprecedented hatred. Her only sister was attacked by Summer of Woven Spots and was severely injured. How could she not be angry? "You haven't forgotten what I said before, right?" Mingyue Wu's face was filled with worry. "About my sister's condition. Weren't you afraid that I would treat your sister as a mental patient? Now you know to come to me?" Dustless said in a sarcastic tone. Before, his warm face was stuck to Mingyue Wu's cold butt. "I was wrong. Is that not enough?" Feng Wu showed an aggrieved expression. She hugged Wu Chen's arm and acted coquettishly. Her tone was soft and her arm swayed in her embrace. Sometimes, it would touch her high cleavage. Dustless's heart was in turmoil as he glanced at the IS Academy uniform that was propped up high. He muttered in his mind, "This kid is too developed. She probably has the potential to be a dairy cow in the future. Only this time, no next time." After some coaxing, Dustless finally agreed. In fact, he had a good impression of Mingyue Wu. In a quiet ward, Morzhizan was lying quietly. Her face was pale, her breathing was very weak, and her eyebrows were purple. It seemed that it was not a simple skin wound. As soon as he entered the ward, Dustless realized that Gingzan's injury was very serious because this was the ICU. There doesn't seem to be much of a problem. Dustless gave it a cursory glance and didn't find any clues. This is a big problem. Ming Wu laughed bitterly and sighed. He gritted his teeth and explained, "My sister was seriously injured by those terrorists and was forced to eat poison." "Really?" Hearing this, Dustless's pupils rippled as he asked suspiciously, "You saw it?" Dustless opened the tensigan and saw a purple liquid flowing in the blood vessels of the hairpin, eroding her internal organs. This poison wasn't very fatal. It was a slow-acting virus, but it could be very dangerous over time. No. Mingyu shook his head and didn't say much. He took out his mobile phone and played a recording. Your sister was poisoned by us. Don't try to save her. If you want to get the antidote, take Dustless's head and give it to us. Otherwise, just wait for death. No wonder you hate Weaver Spot's first summer so much. Dustless was relieved. He instantly recognized this voice as Weaver Spot's first summer. But that kid is really good. He even knows how to poison people. Wu Chen praised him politely. You even know how to kill with a borrowed knife. Not bad. When a sunny and kind-hearted person falls into darkness, his heart will be more evil than anyone else. It's really true. You still praise him? Mingyu Wu rolled her eyes, stomped her feet, and stared at Dustless angrily, and said angrily, I caught that guy and beat him until his parents couldn't recognize him. That guy and Xiandong are orphans. I adopted them back then. They don't have parents. Dustless hugged his head, then looked at Mingyu Wu expectantly and asked, speaking of which, why didn't you take my head and ask for the antidote as he wanted? The point is, I can't beat you. Mingyu Wu answered dejectedly. She was Dustless's disciple, and they were not on the same level at all. Can you cure my sister's illness or not? Mingyu Wu looked at Dustless worriedly, and said in a threatening and warning tone, if you can't cure her, I might really do as Vega Summer asked. You just said that you're not my opponent, and now you want to fall out with me? Dustless rolled his eyes at Mingyu Wu, then said indifferently, don't worry, leave it to me. Cure? Dustless naturally didn't have that ability, but he had other methods. You can leave first. Dustless waved his hand, I'm afraid your heart can't take my rough treatment. Don't scare me, I've seen a lot of big scenes. Mingyu Wu refuted, then stared at Dustless, who didn't seem to be moved at all. She had no choice but to leave. If something goes wrong, you won't be able to be a man for the rest of your life. Mingyu Wu raised her fist and looked at Dustless warningly, then blushed slightly, you can't do anything excessive to my sister while I'm away, or I won't let you off. Do something excessive? Dustless had a strange expression and teased, for example. Of course, you're not allowed to take advantage of the situation. Mingyu Wu responded seriously, then said in a soft voice, she's still young, if you really want to find someone to solve it, you can find me. When she said the last few words, Mingyu Wu's voice couldn't be heard at all. Although she gave everyone the impression that she was the cheerful and bold type, it was really difficult for a girl to say such embarrassing words. Since you said so, I won't be polite when the time comes. Staring at the graceful curves, Dustless smiled naughtily. Chapter 48. It was normal for Leonhardt to have complaints previously. After all, he was the one and only king of the Devil Realm. Just because of Dustless's words, he had to step down and get lost. This was 2F** king ridiculous. No matter how monstrous Wu Chen's strength was, at least Leo Hart had never seen it with his own eyes. This time, after experiencing it personally, he immediately understood the gap between them. The resentment in his heart towards Wu Chen also lessened a lot. A few minutes later, Kai woke up. When she saw Dustless, she immediately rushed over and could not help but burst into tears. Being betrayed by her family was indeed a heavy blow to a young girl who was not even 20 years old. After crying for half an hour, Kai finally fell asleep in Dustless's arms. After this incident, Dustless could feel that Kai had more trust in him. It was just like the saying, a friend in need is a friend indeed. After carrying Kai back to her room to rest, Dustless turned around and left. On the way, he bumped into Leah and Leonhardt. Seeing the two of them, Dustless said bluntly, Kai said that she has no interest in the Underworld King's position, so Leonhardt will continue to be the Underworld King. Consider it as repayment for saving her life. Really? Leonhardt was extremely excited. There was actually someone in this world who voluntarily gave up the Underworld King's position? What a miracle, Dustless nodded gently. This was indeed what Kai said before. So, the world is finally peaceful. Leah's little face showed a satisfied smile. She actually did not have the ambition to conquer the world. Everything was fine as long as everything was safe. However, Leah's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of uneasiness when she suddenly thought of the people from the Pivotal Council who escaped. Those who escaped were all lunatics who would do anything to unify the underworld. They were forced into a desperate situation and would do anything crazy. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom, an unprecedentedly violent explosion suddenly resounded throughout the underworld. The destructive shockwave spread without limit. Wherever it went, all the buildings were turned into ashes. Crack 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 crack, everyone immediately walked out of the room and looked up at the sky. There were cracks on the blue barrier. Something incredible has appeared. It can even shatter my barrier. Dustless had a look of surprise on his face. He looked towards the source of the tremors and saw that it was a huge magic array. This magic array exuded an ancient and desolate aura. It was filled with a murderous intent that wanted to destroy everything. When it descended on this continent, everyone shuddered as they felt the aura of death. Even powerhouses of Lionheart's caliber broke out in cold sweat as they stared at the large magic array with fear in their eyes. The heroic spirit king who commands all heroic spirits, demon god Chaos. Leonheart clenched his fists and roared angrily, "In order to defeat us, those old bastards from the Pivotal Council even used this trump card. Yeah. Devil God? What a scary name." Dustless lazily placed his hands in his pockets, a strange light flashing in his eyes as he gazed at the behemoth slowly emerging from the magic array. "You look so excited." Leah was speechless as she explained solemnly, "Demon God Chaos will continue to summon heroic spirits. Even if we defeat him in the end, the demonic realm will eventually become a wasteland. He won't have that chance." Dustless's body suddenly floated over and flew out of the barrier as he quickly flew towards Demon God Chaos. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a large number of light beams came from all directions as the destructive shockwaves cut through the void. The deafening sound was enough to tear a person's eardrums. Dustless did not evade. He faced the light beam and rushed out. Is that guy crazy? Isn't he afraid of being blown to pieces? Leonheart was stunned. In his opinion, Dustless was courting death. Boom boom boom, the light beams came from all directions. The moment they came into contact with Dustless, there was a huge explosion that could destroy the sky. His body was blown to pieces and there was not even a trace of him left. However, it was useless. As a user of the glint fruit, Dustless's body was instantly restored. He was still charging forward fearlessly. Roar 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 roar, at the same time, Demon God Chaos had completely rushed out of the magic array. His huge body was like a demon, exuding an extremely evil aura of destruction. Behind him were a large number of purple worms that looked like enlarged versions of caterpillars. It was extremely disgusting. Roar roar roar, as if sensing Dustless's arrival, Demon God Chaos roared wildly as if he felt that he was being looked down upon by an ant and became angry out of humiliation. "What's a mindless idiot like you trying to show off for?" Dustless muttered to himself as if he was mocking the giant Demon God Chaos in front of him. Roar roar roar, Demon God Chaos seemed to understand Dustless's mockery and roared again. The purple tentacles behind him shot out like sharp blades. "You're just an ant. Don't overestimate yourself." Dustless blinked slightly, and his surging eye power began to surge. He focused his sight on the purple tentacles and shouted, "Amaterasu." Boom boom boom. In an instant, a ball of black fire suddenly descended. It was as powerful as a natural disaster and surrounded the disgusting tentacles, burning them quickly. After burning the disgusting tentacles, the Amaterasu did not disappear. The vines moved forward along the purple tentacles, and the black fire finally engulfed every part of Demon God Chaos's body. A large ball of Amaterasu burned in the void, and a scream resounded through the world. "Ah!" Demon God Chaos let out a miserable howl that contained extreme pain. "Seeing you in so much pain, I'll free you." Dustless suddenly raised his thumb and aimed at demon god Chaos in the depths of the void. The majestic spiritual pressure in his body continued to burst out and filled the ball. Wang Su's flash. P.S. 3,000 flowers plus updates, 3,000 rewards plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. Chapter 49. Capture her. Dustless swept a glance at Wild Bone and no longer paid attention to her. She was already a turtle in a jar and no one could save her. The remaining monsters of Nuliang group looked at each other and surrounded Wild Bone and the other monsters. The situation was reversed in an instant. Remember, I want her alive. Dustless turned around and left. Nuliang group was already in ruins and if he didn't rebuild it, he would have to sleep soundly. This kind of thing was a piece of cake for Dustless. As a user of the wood style, how could this kind of trivial matter be a problem for him? Boom boom boom, the ground cracked open and all kinds of thick wood rose from the ground. All of them evolved into houses according to Dustless's will. In just a few minutes, a grander Nuliang group headquarters appeared in front of everyone. It was more majestic than before and was thousands of square meters in size. It was hard to imagine that it was built in just a few minutes. At the same time, Wild Bone was also captured alive. As for the other cadres of Feathered Fox, they were all killed. The reason why she was kept alive was because she was relatively valuable. Sorry, Lord Dustless, one of them escaped. After that, Bull Demon ran over with an ashamed expression. He didn't even dare to lift his head. It's fine as long as it's not Wild Bone and Violent Xidigarba. Dustless didn't care. The other monsters were all small fries. Only those two guys were considered to have some status. I'm really sorry, the one that escaped was Violent Xidigarba. Bull Demon's tone became even more ashamed. He lowered his head and looked like he was too ashamed to show his face. Hearing this, Dustless turned to look at Bull Demon. After a while, he said, it's fine if he escaped. He probably tipped off Feathered Fox. Then what should we do next? Bull Demon asked carefully. He was really afraid that Dustless would flip out if Violent Xidigarba escaped. Tomorrow morning, we will immediately rush to the capital. At this moment in the capital, the flames of war were raging. The Flower Kayuan family was retreating. There was no need for Feathered Fox to do it herself. The monsters she brought were enough to easily annihilate the Flower Kayuan family. Especially after the demons in the wilderness submitted to the Feathered Fox, her strength increased by several levels. The Hua Kayuan family was no match for her at all. Their main camp was taken over by the Feathered Fox's subordinates. At this moment, in a barren mountain far away from the capital, the surviving Hua Kayuan clan was temporarily living there. Speaking of which, it was laughable that the world-famous Hua Kayuan clan had been chased out of the capital by the demons. They had no choice but to hide in the deep mountains and forests. But the current situation was like this. Feathered Fox's minions were too strong. She didn't even need to do it herself. Her minions were like fierce tigers, beating up the Flower Kayuan family. In the mountains, there were countless abandoned caves. The members of the Flower Kayuan family were hiding in them. The once prosperous Flower Kayuan family had completely fallen. There were only a few dozen of them left. The rest had all died in battle. More than half of the capital had been destroyed because of this war. It was enough to see how tragic this war was. There were countless casualties. Now the capital had become a paradise for monsters. When will that guy come to the capital? Flower Kayuan Yulua stood outside a cave and looked at the distant sky. It was pitch black there. Raging demonic aura rushed into the sky. It was the capital. Ayaya. Little Yulua, you seem to have a special liking for that monster. How strange. As a Onmyoji, the Flower Kayuan family has begun to rely on a monster. A strange voice came from behind. Flower Kayuan Yulua gently turned her head. The person who entered her sight was Flower Kayuan Shoyuan, who was wearing a white Taoist robe. He had died 400 years ago. Now that he was able to see the light of day again, he was completely relying on the army destroyer used by Flower Kayun Yulua. It's not that I have a special liking for that guy. I hate that hooligan very much. Flower Kayun Yulua's little mouth gently rose, then helplessly said, but, other than him, who else can we rely on? Now the capital is already in chaos. What Yulua said is correct. Although I also hate that guy, but we can only rely on that dustless. If we only rely on our Flower Kayun family, we will be done for. Long E, who was leaning on a rock, had a gloomy expression. If they wanted to defeat Feathered Fox, there were two important things, Army Destroyer and Amikihimuru. But Amikihimuru had already been destroyed by Dustless, so they could only rely on him. Kyoto. After the expulsion of Flower Kayun family, this place had already become a hell on earth. Humans were cruelly killed or directly eaten by demons. In a certain mansion in Kyoto, a large number of demons gathered here. This was the former headquarters of Flower Kayun family. The cadres here were all the subordinates of Feathered Fox. Bang 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 bang. Sitting at the head of the table, Feathered Fox, who had always been elegant and calm, unexpectedly smashed the jade table in front of her into pieces. Her pale cheeks were filled with hostility. Kwanggu was caught. Ka ka ka. Feathered Fox tightly clenched her little hand. It seemed as if her bones were about to burst. All the demons looked at each other in dismay. Everyone was as quiet as cicadas in winter. They didn't even dare to breathe. They knew that Feathered Fox was really enraged. They couldn't help but break out in cold sweat for Dustless. If other people died, Feathered Fox might not even look at them. But Kwanggu was different. Feathered Fox even treated him as her younger sister. Both of them had a deep sisterly relationship. If Kwanggu was caught, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he had caused a great disaster. Chapter 50. In Dustless's view, if you have to find a peerless person, there is no doubt that it is definitely Uchiha Itachi. But then again. Tsunade turned her head and looked at Dustless with curiosity in her eyes, and asked, "You and that old man reached a secret agreement. What did that old man have to impress you?" Tsunade's words immediately attracted the attention of Jiraiya and Orochimaru, and they turned their heads and looked at Dustless with great interest on their faces. "Since you know, don't ask more." Glancing at Tsunade, Dustless rolled his eyes and ruthlessly broke Tsunade's fantasy. He turned his head and looked straight ahead. "You." Hearing this, Tsunade's mouth suddenly twitched, and her eyes were burning with flames. She glanced at Dustless fiercely, and turned her head angrily. She inevitably cursed Dustless in her heart. "This has nothing to do with you," Dustless said coldly to Tsunade. Sandame's chip is naturally the Manjikyu Sharingan with Uchiha Kagami. The premise for the birth of the eternal Manjikyu Sharingan is the transplant of a relative's Manjikyu Sharingan. Although Uchiha Kagami is also an Uchiha, he has nothing to do with Dustless, and transplanting his Manjikyu Sharingan will definitely cause rejection. "Stop, something is wrong here." At this moment, Orochimaru suddenly shouted, awakening Dustless from his contemplation. Dustless suddenly froze and subconsciously looked at Orochimaru with a dignified face. The scene in front of him was quite strange. Whether it was Orochimaru, Jiraiya, or Tsunade, all three of them were cautious and vigilant, and they were looking at the surrounding environment from the corner of their eyes. Dustless was confused and didn't know what was going on. "Haven't you noticed yet? We've been surrounded," Jiraiya said with a gloomy face. His eyes were full of murderous intent. He squinted his eyes and emitted a cold light. It was extremely terrifying. The murderous intent all over his body spread out like a flood. The scene suddenly became extremely oppressive. Dustless lifted his gaze and spread it forward meticulously. He swept past all the substances in the eyeball, but his face was still filled with confusion. "Are you really a Kage-level powerhouse? Maybe your strength is like that, but how could Tsunade let go of such a good opportunity?" She was the first to attack Dustless with a face full of contempt and ridicule. Seeing that Tsunade was attacking Dustless, Orochimaru frowned and looked at her with dissatisfaction and said in a deep voice, "Now is not the time to joke around. Recently, it hasn't rained here for a long time. It's very dry." Orochimaru's eyes looked around him as he spoke in an unusually indifferent manner. Immediately, the corners of his mouth curled into a dense sneer. At a glance, the surrounding land and mountains appeared to be in a withered state. The ground was even covered with sinister cracks. In such a dry and hot environment, there was indeed a puddle of water in front of them. "I'm sorry, this is my negligence." Dustless smiled awkwardly. He suddenly realized that something was wrong. He scolded himself for not being tempered enough. He wasn't as experienced as Orochimaru. After all, Dustless didn't even go to the shinobi school. Except for his strength, he didn't know anything about shinobi. Staring at the scattered water stains in front of him, Orochimaru smiled coldly. His pale face was full of murderous intent, like an Asura from hell. TSK, Orochimaru is worthy of being one of the Sannin. His insight is really extraordinary. A cold laughter suddenly sounded, accompanied by the sound of water droplets flowing. He suddenly looked up and saw that the large water stains in front of him were all flowing rapidly. In an instant, hundreds of figures appeared. The Mist Village? Looking at the group of figures in front of him, Dustless had doubts in his heart. He frowned unconsciously. If he remembered correctly, the battle with the mist was in the future. "Don't you know how to destroy the plot?" Staring at the fog that suddenly appeared inexplicably in front of him, Wu Chen was speechless. He didn't remember that the so-called plot had been shattered by him, a professional plot destroyer. "You guys. It seems like you're going to die." Orochimaru smiled cruelly as the wrinkles in the corner of his eyes kept twitching. He had already sentenced the mist to death in his heart. Orochimaru sneered again and again. The Mizukage was too naive and ignorant to think that he could defeat them with a group of weaklings. The 7 legendary swordsmen of the mist? Jiraiya was surprised as he looked at the 7 leading figures. The 7 legendary swordsmen of the mist were quite famous in the ninja world, but their old faces quickly turned cold. Aside from Dustless, the Sannin and the 7 legendary swordsmen of the mist weren't in the same dimension. The former could crush the latter, even if they had the advantage in numbers. "Scram if you don't want to die before I decide to kill you." Jiraiya stepped forward and stared at the mist ninjas. Numbers were nothing in front of absolute strength. "Humph." One of the 7 legendary swordsmen of the mist also stepped forward and looked at Jiraiya with murderous intent. He looked at Jiraiya, who was much shorter than him, and sneered. "Using the blood and lives of the Sannin as stepping stones to become famous, it's best." Dustless looked at the burly man who had spoken and ignored him. However, the young man beside the Watermelon Mountain River ghost had attracted Dustless's attention. He had a shark face and a ferocious expression. He looked quite young and tall. He was much taller than the malnourished Dustless. Especially his beast-like eyes, no one dared to look down on him. Kisame. This is interesting." With a faint smile on his face, Dustless looked back and recognized the young man at a glance. He was the only one in the world who looked like a shark. "Since you want to die so much, I will reluctantly send you to heaven." With a ferocious smile, Orochimaru pounced forward. His snake eyes were full of killing intent as he rushed straight towards the pufferfish ghost. Seeing this, Jiraiya and Tsunade also rushed toward the mist village with murderous intent. Chapter 51. A hint of struggle flashed across Isuna's pretty face. Over the past few months, she felt that her soul had been corrupted by Gengo Aoi. Wait a moment. Isuna had no choice but to follow Gengo Aoi's instructions and leave. If she refused, this old man would beat her up again and humiliate her. The wise doctor in the past had gradually been driven crazy by Dustless. Sometimes, he had a bad temper and was no different from a mad dog, biting whoever he saw. "You will be obedient," Gengo Aoi said with a fake smile, like a demon that could speak. The Eugen wanderer felt his hair stand on end. He felt that this old man was a monster in human skin. After a while, the unconscious man and woman were brought over by Isuna. They don't deserve to be with me. I knocked them both out. The moment the Eugen wanderer saw the two of them, his pupils suddenly shrank and he shouted anxiously, "Father, mother. You are despicable scum. Cut the crap." Django Aoi glanced at the Eugen wanderer coldly and urged, "Call Shifeng and ask her to kill Dustless. Otherwise, I will break your parents' legs first. You better cooperate." As soon as he finished speaking, Django Aoi ran over and kicked the Eugen wanderer's father in the stomach, causing him to wail in pain. "Don't hurt them. I agree to your conditions." Forced to make a choice, the Eugen wanderer compromised in despair. There was no other way. How could he watch his parents be killed? That was absolutely impossible. Time flew, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this period of time, everything was calm and tranquil as usual. However, Wuchen noticed that someone had changed. Shifeng, who was usually meticulous in his work, had become absent-minded. He was often absent-minded in class and looked absent-minded. In his impression, Shifeng was meticulous and serious in everything she did. On this day, Shifeng came to take care of Lucy as usual. Perhaps it was because they were the same kind, but Lucy was very close to Shifeng. After all, they were both legendary Pandora. Perhaps there was a resonance in their souls. The usually cold Lucy would occasionally laugh like a silver bell. "Teacher Dustless, I want to take Lucy out for a walk today," Shifeng said to Dustless abruptly after helping Lucy put on her clothes. "Go for a walk? Can't we do it in school?" Dustless, who was reading on the sofa, raised his eyebrows and hesitated. If a legendary Pandora went berserk, the consequences would be unimaginable. "Forget it. Go, go, go. Remember to be careful." Wuchen originally wanted to refuse, but when he saw Lucy looking at him with an expectant look, his heart softened in the end. Upon hearing Dustless's agreement, Lucy immediately revealed a bright smile that was as warm as the sun. "Speaking of which, you seem to be a little absent-minded recently. You're also in a daze during class, Shifeng." Dustless put down his book and asked Shifeng, "Is it because of that Reaper of yours?" "I've heard about him from Elizabeth. He hasn't returned to class yet. If there's anything I can help you with, just let me know. After all, you helped me solve Lucy's problem." As expected, I can't hide anything from Teacher Dustless. Shifeng sighed inwardly and shook her head to indicate that she wasn't. Only her expression was a little stiff. "Something happened at home. My parents' health is getting worse." Shifeng found a reason to deal with it. Django Aoki had threatened her to kill Dustless. To be honest, she couldn't do it. Shifeng thought of other strategies to solve the problem. "I'll go to your house to take a look. I have a unique understanding of medical skills." Dustless's sudden recommendation caught Shifeng off guard. She hurriedly refused, "It's just a common cold. I'll be fine after taking some medicine." "Is that so? Then send my regards to your parents. I hope they can recover soon. It's getting colder now. More and more people are catching colds." Dustless didn't talk nonsense. If he continued, it would only make things worse. However, a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. The more Shifeng said this, the more it meant that there was a big problem. After about half an hour, Shifeng and Lucy finished their meal. They changed their clothes and went out. They were beauties with good figures. Therefore, when they went out, they attracted a lot of attention. Shifeng was fine, but she was surprised when she saw Lucy. During this period, Dustless didn't stay idle. He went to the 3rd year to find Elizabeth, but she wasn't there. He had no choice but to come to the girls' dormitory. As soon as Dustless appeared, it caused a sensation. Many girls rushed to surround him. Dustless, who was squeezed in the crowd, was even molested. In the end, he had to use invisible clone to deal with it. These years, the students are getting crazier. I thought that the seniors would be more rational. I didn't expect them to be the ones who can't control themselves. Dustless, who escaped from the disaster, hid under the shade of a tree and gasped. If he left later, his clothes would have been torn apart. Your embarrassed look is really interesting. TSK, I didn't expect you to have such a cute side. It turns out that you're not invincible. You didn't run away from a group of female students. How funny, haha. Suddenly, a figure appeared in his eyes. After seeing this person, Dustless frowned slightly. Lana Lin Cheen, facing the girl's ridicule, Dustless's eyes were calm. He wasn't angry at all. Those are my students. Have you ever seen a teacher fight with her students? Besides, if they treat me like that, it means that I'm very popular. If you think that you can anger me by saying that, you're too funny, Lana. Chapter 52. The small amount of information obtained from the bundle of Shao indicated that this was an organization established during the Second World War. It didn't belong to any country, nor did it have any religious beliefs. No one even knew where it originated from. As for the organization's internal scale, purpose, and personnel, this series of secrets was even more unknown. Inside the IS Academy, Dustless sat in his office. There was a thick stack of documents on the table in front of him. This was the first batch of documents that had been delivered. The content was almost all reports on the IS industry. However, the useful information was pitifully little or none. Currently, one thing was certain. This organization was very jealous of the advanced IS and even wanted to take it for themselves. According to the news from the police, during the autopsy, the IS on Weaver Ban was gone. It was probably taken by the organization. Dustless looked up blankly and murmured, "That idiot is so naive." The white system was actually his protection. Now that the white system is in their hands, for the terrorists, Weaver Ban has no value, therefore, it was no big deal to kill him. Yuanwu, how's the preparation for the thing I asked you to do? Dustless's eyes fell on the head of the girl on the sofa. She laid there lazily. Perhaps because it was too hot, her collar was casually open, and the huge jade ball was about to jump out. However, with the terrorists bothering him, Dustless really didn't have the mood to appreciate this beautiful scene. I've prepared everything. Don't worry. Yuanwu naughtily stuck out her tongue and winked at Dustless. Then, her face showed a rare look of worry. But are you serious? Now the whole world is in an uproar. Of course. Dustless gently nodded and immediately frowned. It's just an IS competition. Is it as exaggerated as you say it is? If it was a normal IS competition, it would definitely not attract attention. However, the prize for the final winner is too rich. Not to mention others, even I am tempted. She pouted and narrowed her beautiful eyes. The winner is actually a fourth-generation machine personally built by Dr. Xiao Zhizhi. How many people are not tempted? This is only part of the reward. Dustless smiled mysteriously. He opened the drawer and placed some blueprints on the table. Take a look. Although the fourth-generation console is good, it's not as important as these things. It's just a few pieces of paper. What's so strange about it? Even more, Ming Wu scoffed. However, out of curiosity, he still picked it up and took a look. Before she had time to read the content, she only saw a few eye-catching words on the design page. Her expression instantly froze, and her lips opened and closed several times. In the end, she exclaimed in shock, Hearing this, Dustless held his head with both hands and teased, "Since when did the eloquent you become a stutterer? Isn't it just the fifth-generation IS design?" Look at how shocked you are. Isn't it just the 5th generation design? Don't you know what this means? Hearing this, even more panicked. This guy didn't know the hunger of a starving man. Some countries in the world were still in the 3rd generation of IS. Even countries like France were still in the 2nd generation. The 4th generation reward for this IS competition was already ridiculous enough. Now even the 5th generation design was given out. Are you saying that this is also the reward for this competition? He shook his head vigorously and forced himself to calm down. He asked suspiciously, the reward this time is too generous. Once the news gets out, I'm afraid it will attract the attention of criminals. At that time, the losses will outweigh the gains. I want the outside world to go crazy. Dustless smiled coldly and said, if they want to destroy people, the ancestors will go crazy. The current target of the vanquished nation machine industry is all kinds of advanced IS. If they know that I gave out the 4th generation and 5th generation IS designs as the reward, the poisonous snakes hiding in the dark will definitely jump out. In front of this huge bait, I don't believe they can turn a blind eye. For a mere Baishurja, the terrorists used all their tricks. With the 4th generation and 5th generation design, the terrorists of the vanquished nation machine industry would definitely not be able to resist. Lure the snake out of its hole? Even more immediately understood Dustless's intention. Although the plan was not bad, the risk was not small. IS Academy would definitely become the target. Don't worry, you are the president of the student council. Just do as I say. Dustless comforted him with confidence. Let's set the time for 7 days later. No matter what, I'm still against giving out the 5th generation IS design. If it doesn't work, we can find a fake one. Even more still insisted on his opinion, if it really falls into the hands of the terrorists, it might change the world. Even more loudly, even more seriously looked at Dustless. You don't have to worry about this. Dustless said slowly, the 5th generation design is only a part. This was given to me by Shu. Even that guy couldn't draw out the entire design. Do you think other people can? This, even Moore's heart skipped a beat. He thought for a bit, changed his mind, and silently nodded in agreement. Indeed, if the bundle of Shao, the pioneer of IS, couldn't design something, it was even more impossible for others to do so. Although the design in front of him was real, it was a useless piece of paper to some extent because it was impossible to create with the current technology of mankind. If it was possible, Shao would have created it a long time ago and used Dustless as a test subject. Let's see how long you can endure. Dustless's dark eyes flashed with a mysterious light. Just as even Moore said, this was inviting the wolf into the house. Chapter 53. Is that so? Your judgment is very wise. I think so too. Dustless chuckled. Just as Ox Ghost said, capturing that female fox to warm the bed was too flattering for her. Ayaya. It seems that there is still one alive. Looking from afar, there was actually a figure struggling. His whole body was pierced through like a hornet's nest, and blood was constantly flowing out. The person in front, quickly report your name. A deafening sound came from afar. With this shout, everyone including Dustless was stupefied. Looking around, it was the demon leader called Hidden Master Bai. Ungrateful guy, how can he know the name of Master Dustless? Ox Ghost's eyes flashed with cold light. With a clang sound, he pulled out his katana. I will deal with that guy. Wait. Dustless's cheeks showed a faint smile. This guy is very principled. He has to wait until I report my name. I think he is quite cute. Cute? Ox Ghost was speechless. He couldn't understand Dustless's thinking at all. The other party was the cadre of Feathered Fox. He was quite powerful and commanded nearly 10,000 demons. How could this be called cute? Go and capture him alive. Dustless ordered Ox Ghost. The latter just nodded slightly. Hidden Master Bai's whole body was pierced through by the Yasakani no Magatama just now. Now he didn't have the energy to deal with Ox Ghost, so he was captured alive in just a few rounds and brought to Dustless. This guy was covered in blood, and his flesh was badly mutilated. Looking carefully, there were dozens of holes in his wounds, but even so, Hidden Masterby still didn't retreat and was very loyal, which made Dustless look at him in a new light. You are very brave. It is Feathered Fox's blessing to have a subordinate like you. After seeing Hidden Masterby, Dustless said slowly, Don't you want to know my name? My name is Dustless. Dustless? Although he had heard of this name a long time ago, Hidden Masterby was still shocked. He asked in surprise, You're the one who killed Devil Child Pill and captured Kwangu? Humph, other than Lord Dustless, who else would have such courage? Ox Ghost said disdainfully. On the other hand, Dustless looked at Ghost Bull with a strange look. This kid was getting better at bootlicking. Lord Feathered Fox said that if any demons encounter Dustless, we are to pass on a message. Hidden Lordby looked up at Dustless and said, You better not let anything happen to Wild Bone, or he'll eat you alive. Ayaya. How scary. How can a woman like her warm my bed? I should just stomp her to death. Dustless pretended to be scared. All right, you can go now. Dustless waved his hand. The sudden decision made Ghost Ox and Hidden Masterby stunned. Lord Dustless, are you going to let this guy go? Ghost Ox dug his ears, thinking that he had misheard. This guy was an enemy, a loyal follower of Feathered Fox. You must be joking. Hidden Masterby also looked at Dustless in disbelief. Don't misunderstand. I just think you're cute. Moreover, Feathered Fox will lose no matter what. You won't change anything. Dustless replied calmly, It's not that Feathered Fox is weak. Her only fatal weakness is that she chose the wrong enemy. Are you looking down on me? Hidden Masterby looked at Dustless unhappily. His whole body was wreaking havoc. He tried to teach this guy a lesson, but a burning pain spread all over his body. The Yasakani no Magatama had already pierced through Hidden Masterby's body. However, this kid was not destined to die yet. Some of his important organs were not damaged. So what if I look down on you? Do you think you're qualified to be compared with Lord Dustless? Ghost Ox asked coldly. This guy was too insensible. Forgive this kid, and he still didn't know how to be grateful. If there's nothing else, I'll throw you down. This spaceship is too small to accommodate you. Dustless stood up and walked over slowly. I still have something to say. Hidden Masterby quickly said, I heard that Feathered Fox captured Blossoming School's Ulua alive. She also said that if you dare to mess around with Wild Bone, she will deal with Blossoming School's Ulua in the same way. Hearing this, Dustless's expression was rather strange. He couldn't help but mutter, If I sleep with that kid called Wild Bone, does Feathered Fox plan to do the same? But does she have the ability to do so? Hidden Masterby and Ghost Ox's cheeks twitched. If Dustless played like this, Feathered Fox really couldn't take revenge. I'll be back. After taking a deep look at Dustless, Hidden Masterby jumped down from the spaceship. Lord Dustless, what should we do next? Ghost Ox asked. He knew that Blossoming School's Ulua and Dustless's relationship was not bad. What else can we do? This time, let's be the savior and destroy the capital. Dustless looked at the dark sky in the distance. It was the direction of the capital. Demon Chi was soaring to the sky. Even the sky had turned dark. The dark clouds were oppressive, penetrating the endless despair. A team of a few hundred demons wanted to destroy Feathered Fox, who occupied the entire capital. It sounded like a fool's dream. After all, after the demons from the distant wilderness joined Feathered Fox, they occupied the entire capital. The number of demons under Feathered Fox's command reached a terrifying number of hundreds of thousands. Even at the peak of Nuliang Group, there were only tens of thousands of demons. In terms of numbers, it was 10 times more than Nuliang Group. Not to mention the battle, the most basic data was enough to make people despair. However, after witnessing Dustless's rage, Ghost Ox and the others' confidence skyrocketed. After all, he had summoned an army of 10 trillion undead. Even if he didn't reach this number, he could still completely crush Feathered Fox's underlings. Chapter 54. These guys are so strong. Who are they? Elizabeth stood up with difficulty. Her body was about to fall apart, and she did not have the energy to fight anymore. These people were too strong, and their strength was overwhelming. Her beautiful eyes stared at the people approaching her. This was the first time in her life that she tasted despair. These mysterious people of unknown origins, just one of them was already too much for her to handle. If they were to gang up on her, Elizabeth would be beaten up badly. I've never heard of them before. Elizabeth's usually wise eyes were filled with confusion. If these mysterious people were to be exposed, they would definitely rewrite the world's Pandora rankings. If it was Dustless, he would definitely be able to recognize that these people were Sakura's teammates from the Heaven Court, as well as the candidates for the Valkyrie project. Who are you guys? Wiping the blood from the corner of her mouth, Elizabeth gritted her teeth and asked, "Who gave you the order to brazenly invade the Seeger Academy?" "You don't have the right to know." One of the Valkyrie coldly refused to answer. "In short, everyone who is related to Wu Chen is our target and must be killed. Regardless of whether their relationship is good or bad, they must be executed. For example, you. If you want to hate someone, go to hell and hate that guy for offending someone he shouldn't have offended." Hearing this, Elizabeth's face turned pale. It turned out that she was not the only one who had suffered misfortune. For example, Shadalisa was probably doomed as well. These words are really scary. Anyone who is close to me, regardless of whether they are friends or enemies, must be killed. This is indeed the style of that old man Aoi Django. A lazy voice suddenly sounded, and the Valkyries frowned. Only Elizabeth felt like she had broken out of a cage. She was very familiar with this voice, and knew that it was Dustless. "You're that Dustless?" The Valkyrie with glasses asked, and then took the initiative to introduce herself. "I'm Franca Portia, and I'm not interested in listening to your self-introduction." Dustless's face was filled with solemnity as he spat out a bone-chilling breath. "Get lost before I'm really angry. Take that Heaven Court Sakura with you. Remember, get lost far away and don't appear in my sight." "Teacher Dustless, you," these words immediately caused Elizabeth to be astonished. She found it hard to believe. In her impression, Dustless was rarely so serious, especially when he flipped out at girls. Right now, it was as if he was a different person. "What did you say?" The Valkyries were furious and looked at Dustless with resentment. They were used to being high and mighty. Talking to Dustless was already showing them mercy. This bastard actually told them to scram. He was simply too arrogant. "Stay away, Elizabeth." Dustless stood in front of Elizabeth and said straightforwardly, "There may be a lot of noise later. It won't be good if it affects you. Run for your life." I understand." Elizabeth nodded obediently and quickly stood up to leave. As she jogged away, she did not forget to turn her head to look at Dustless. He was especially scary in this state. Elizabeth even had a feeling that the usually gentle teacher was really angry now. Maybe it's because of Shadalisa. Elizabeth guessed. Previously, the Valkyries had said that anyone related to Dustless, good or bad, would be wiped out. Obviously, Shadalisa and her sister, Violet, were also the Valkyries' prey. That was why Dustless had shown such a scary expression. "The few of you will die a horrible death." Dustless's eyes were bloodshot. In a hoarse voice, he said, "I gave you a chance to escape, but you didn't cherish it. Then all of you will die here. Watch your tone, you bastard." One of the Valkyries angrily glared at Dustless. Her name was Kristen Evra, and she came from England. She had a bad temper to begin with, and after being repeatedly looked down upon by Dustless, she couldn't hold back her anger and swooped down. Her speed was so fast that it was fleeting. Seeing this, Dustless gently raised his right foot. Murderous aura burst out of his body, and the light on his foot gathered as he kicked out. Lightspeed kick. The speed of light was so fast that Kristen Evra did not even have time to react before she was engulfed by the destructive light. Boom! 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 Blazing flames burst out of the girl's body. Her flesh and blood were instantly burned to ashes, and she died on the spot. The flames spread, and the void boiled, burning everything around her. What a vicious move. The other Valkyries' expressions changed drastically. Realizing the danger, they hurriedly retreated. Not to mention being kicked, just the flames alone were enough to burn them to death. If they tried to get close, they would definitely meet a tragic end. The fate of Christine Evra, who was swallowed by the fireball, was self-evident. She was afraid that not even her bones were left. She was kicked to explode by Dustless. Not even the remains of her body were left. Everything was incinerated. You bastard. Their good sister was instantly killed by Dustless, and the other Valkyries were furious. They gritted their teeth and wanted nothing more than to kill Dustless immediately. You all have this expression of hatred. It seems that you have to die. You have been brainwashed by Django Aoi too deeply. There is no saving you. When it was time to destroy Flowers, Dustless would not be merciful. These people were loyal to Django Aoi, and if he let them go, they would definitely seek revenge on Shataraza and the others. At that time, they would definitely cause a lot of trouble. It was better to eliminate them now. Heavenly Hand. The eye power of Rinnegan Sharingan was launched, and Wuchen disappeared silently, crossing layers of space, and appeared behind Valkyrie like a ghost, with a cold face. Chapter 55. What should we do? Red Rider looked at Sieg and asked, "Now there are only 2 of us left." Sieg's eyes reddened as he thought of the Black Rider who died tragically. The way he looked at Dustless became exceptionally hostile and bloodshot. What else can we do? Of course, we have to die together. This guy killed my best friend, and I can't forgive him. You mean Althofo, right? Dustless also understood the conflict between the two. Although that guy was indeed killed by Atlanta, I think it's still necessary to clarify some things. First of all, Dustless cleared his throat and explained, Althofo was dissatisfied with the Black Lancer's order and was tired of it. He had nothing to do with this Holy Grail war, so he deliberately died in the hands of Atlanta. Sieg's eyes flickered when he heard the words, and he looked a little surprised. He died on his own. He didn't know about this. But, no matter what, you killed him. This is a fact. Don't try to quibble, Sieg gritted his teeth and said. I don't intend to quibble with you. If you want revenge, just come. But I have to remind you that you can't do anything by yourself. You're just a clone who has been blessed by the gods. Even if you had 10 lives, you wouldn't be able to overturn the heavens, let alone someone like you. Dustless attacked harshly, and at the same time, he stared at Red Rider with glowing eyes. Don't look down on me. Sieg's handsome face suddenly twisted. He wanted to refute, but he couldn't speak. After all, Dustless was indeed too strong. Me alone. Are you blind? I still have Rid. Poochie. A bright red head rolled in front of Sieg. His pupils instantly dilated. This bloody head belonged to Rider. At the moment of his death, his eyes were still open, full of unwillingness. He was a hero with high divinity, but how did he die unknowingly? He didn't even have the time to react. He was instantly killed by Dustless. Now, it shouldn't be a problem to say that you're alone, right? Dustless asked with a chuckle. The heaven-gathering cloud sword in his hand was still dripping with blood. One of his eyes turned into Rinnegan. Just now, he used the power of Heavenly Hand to appear behind the Red Rider and killed him. You're just a clone. You should be thanking your luck for being able to have the last laugh. Of course, it's all because of that damned protagonist aura. But, you're not satisfied with this, and actually want to challenge me. You reap what you sow, you have to bear the karma that you've buried yourself. Dustless slowly walked forward with the sky cluster cloud sword in hand. Every time he took a step forward, Sieg would become extremely nervous and involuntarily take a few steps back. "I'm not afraid of you." Sieg let out a long roar, and at the same time, his body erupted with a burst of red light, and an astonishing magic power burst out from his body. "There's such a magic power?" Mordred was slightly shocked. He was very surprised. It was already unprecedented for a clone to have such a huge magic power like a heroic spirit. When the magic power dissipated, Sieg also underwent a tremendous change. He had already turned into the original black saber, Sieg Fei. "Let Dustless deal with the rest." Artoria elegantly walked to Mordred's side. The latter looked at her absent-mindedly, staring at the face that was so close to him. It was so unreal, but all of this was real. Mordred's heart was filled with mixed feelings. In the past, Mordred wielded a butcher's knife against Artoria. In the end, both of them fell. Right now, Mordred's heart was filled with mixed feelings. "Father." After the corner of his mouth twitched for a while, Mordred finally opened his mouth and said in a low voice, "Maybe you were right back then. I'm not suitable to be a king. At the beginning of this Holy Grail War, I met my master lion, Jie. He was very outstanding, and he taught me a lot of things. I'm very grateful to him. In this life, most people don't get what they want. I'm already very satisfied to be able to fly like a bird on the battlefield and follow my father's back closely. As for becoming a king, this road is too difficult and lonely. It's not suitable for me." Mordred seemed to be enlightened. He lowered his head and said the truest thoughts in his heart. "You," Mordred looked at Artoria nervously and asked very anxiously, "Father, you must hate me very much, right?" It was normal for Mordred to think so. If it weren't for her, Artoria wouldn't have died, and Britain might not have been destroyed. Everything was because of her. However, what father would hate his own child? Artoria responded with a smile, and then did something that made Mordred stunned. She took a step forward and rubbed Mordred's golden hair with her little hand. As she rubbed, she muttered, "No wonder Wu Qin, that fellow, always likes to rub other people's heads. This feels really good." "You," Mordred was stunned. Her eyes were wide open. Was this still the mature, steady, and serious King Arthur? Could it be that Dustless is trying to fool me with a fake? Mordred even had such a thought in her mind, but she quickly shook her head and denied it. Even though she was in the body of a heroic spirit, she could still feel the blood connection. The Artoria in front of her was her father. Chapter 56. If Sakura was smart, she would definitely learn her lesson after this incident. She would not dare to take revenge on Dustless in the future. It was not a bad thing to live in seclusion. If she came to challenge him again, she would be courting death. At that time, Dustless would definitely make her understand how foolish it was to live. "Isn't Teacher Dustless looking for Chiffon?" Elizabeth, who was being hugged by Dustless, couldn't help but ask. It was so awkward that she wanted to find a hole to hide in. She had no choice but to find a topic to divert attention. "Don't worry. I left special spatial coordinates on them. As long as they meet Django AOI, I will sense it and capture them all." A cold glint flashed in Dustless's eyes. At the end of the day, he still had to thank Django AOI for this incident. If it weren't for him, Dustless might not have been able to find the old man even if he spent more time. It was best that Django AOI was willing to jump out himself. At the same time, Shifeng brought Lucy to the agreed meeting place. Django Aoi's initial condition was for Shifeng to assassinate Dustless, but Shifeng wasn't willing to do so. After some bargaining, Django Aoi accepted Shifeng's condition of sending Lucy back. They even agreed on a meeting place. This was an abandoned factory far away from the city center. It was in the wilderness and no one cared about it. It was a paradise for flying insects and beasts. "Where is he?" Shifeng and Lucy stood together. The old man in front of them was stooped and his eyes were sunken. His skin was like the bark of an old tree, and his face was full of deep wrinkles. This person was Django Oi. During this period of time when he was going against Dustless, he did not eat or drink well and had aged a lot. In addition, he was already old, and his body was getting weaker and weaker. He might die one day. Django Oi stared at Shifeng with mixed emotions. Shifeng was also a legendary level Pandora, but something had gone wrong during an experiment back then, causing her to be traumatized. In the end, she could not bear the torture and ran out of Django Oi's laboratory. When he thought about how Shifeng was now Dustless's subordinate, Django Oi's heart ached. He had created Shifeng. What was the difference between him and her father? Tell me, why are you helping Dustless? You should know about that guy's evil deeds. Wuchen hurt Kanzuya. He is your nephew. Why are you still helping Wuchen? Aoi Django looked at Shifeng bitterly. Tears flowed down his face as he spoke. Put away your acting skills. You know that I'm different from Lucy and the others. The other legendary level Pandoras are closer to Maria in nature, and I'm 99% human. After experiencing so many things, I already have my own opinions. Do you think I'll believe your nonsense? That's right, Lucy said with a smile. She didn't know what to say, but she didn't know what to say. Upon hearing this, Django Oi was furious. His tears stopped as he said angrily, Shifeng, no matter what, there's one thing you can't deny. I'm your creator, your father, and Kanzuya is your nephew. I'm your daughter? Shifeng seemed to have heard the funniest joke in the world. He opened his eyes in an instant and stared at Aoi Django. He pointed at Lucy beside him and unceremoniously exposed Aoi Django's nonsense. Are you treating us as weapons or as daughters? Since I'm your daughter, why did some technicians in your laboratory say that I was a puppet? That included Lucy and the others. If you really treated them as your daughters, why did you seal Lucy and the others? Which father would seal his own daughter? This. Django Oi stammered for a long time but could not explain the reason. He could not help but feel a little angry. Weren't all Pandoras with intelligence problems? Why was Shifeng so eloquent that he was speechless? Fortunately, Cassandra and Lucy are different from Shifeng. Django Oi heaved a sigh of relief and suddenly felt lucky. If the other Pandoras were as smart as Shifeng, he might not have been able to control them. Let's end the chat here. Call Jinren out. I've brought Lucy here. From now on, we don't owe each other anything. Shifeng's tone was very cold, like a machine. If anyone who knew her saw her like this, they would definitely be shocked. Sorry, that's impossible. Stop dreaming. She's just a test subject. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, Django Oi did not hide it anymore. He immediately changed his expression. If you don't kill Dustless, I won't hand her over to you. It was because of the words a test subject, that Lucy felt an inexplicable pain in her heart. She bit her lower lip with her silver teeth. Shameless guy, are you going back on your word? Shifeng revealed a rare expression of anger. She clenched her fists and a strong aura erupted from her body. Don't force me to attack. You have no chance of winning. She did not expect Django Oi to be so shameless. When Lucy was captured by Dustless, Django Aoi was burning with anxiety. Later on, he used a series of methods to threaten Shifeng. At first, he wanted her to kill Dustless and then release the hostage, Yujin Wanderer. However, Shifeng refused. Later on, the condition changed to bringing Lucy back to Django Oi. Now that she was here, this old man actually went back on his word. Before they met, Shifeng still had a glimmer of hope for Django Oi. However, after seeing the nature of this old man, she completely lost all hope. So what if I go back on my word? Django Oi sneered. His eyes flickered with a sinister light. He was cunning and cruel. Shifeng, not only can your ruler, the Yujin Wanderer, not leave. Since you're here, don't even think about leaving. Do you think I'm not prepared? You really think too kindly of me. The moment he finished speaking, two figures appeared behind Django Oi. Chapter 57. To the current dustless, this unprecedented stimulation surpassed everything else. Originally, he didn't have much interest in this woman, but now that Rebecca was behaving so well, his interest was completely piqued. If I had a camera right now, I really want to take a short video for Yashur Blake to see, Dustless thought in an extremely vulgar manner. After who knew how long, Rebecca grunted and some unknown liquid dripped from the corner of her mouth. She gave Dustless a few glances of reproach. Very good. From now on, you're mine. After finishing, Dustless felt refreshed. He stared at Rebecca meaningfully and said, "That brat Yashur Blake has already been blacklisted by me. If you continue to interact with him, it will only make me hate you more and more. In that case, I hope you can understand what I mean." After saying that, Dustless's face revealed a kind of haze. Not only was it a warning, but there was also a trace of killing intent. Since this kind of relationship had already happened, Dustless was naturally determined not to allow LaBelle and Yashur Blake to have any contact. I understand. Rebecca wiped the residue from the corner of her mouth and helplessly nodded in agreement. Although she was more or less unhappy, this was the nature of the world. The fate of the weak could only be decided by the strong. After waiting for Dustless to return, Veronica and Sylvia arrived. The two women's expressions were two extremes. Veronica's face was dark, and her small fists were clenched tightly. It was as if she had guessed the bad luck of a dog poop. This made Dustless completely confused. Was this woman having a stroke again? Sylvia's expression was also unprecedentedly strange. This little girl lowered her head. It would have been fine if she was just lowering her head, but the strange thing was that she would occasionally raise her head and use a shy gaze to look at Dustless. Seeing the two women's strange expressions, Dustless felt even more strange. I say, the two of you. Dustless's voice paused slightly, and he directly said, if you have something to say, just say it. Don't give me this. That old man just sent an order. It's about us sisters. Veronica was the first to speak. There was a trace of displeasure in her tone. She said disdainfully, let us two sisters marry you. Sylvia lowered her head the moment she finished speaking. Really? Although Dustless was a little surprised, it was only for a short moment. There was nothing strange about it. Many years ago, the king had this plan, but at that time, Dustless was not interested. First of all, the two sisters were too young at the time, especially Sylvia, who was only a little kid at the time. Then what do you two plan to do? Dustless drank a cup of water and asked in a gentle tone. Hearing that Wu Chen's voice suddenly softened, Veronica snorted coldly, don't think that by pretending to be gentle, we will marry you. It's simply a dream. King, hearing that, the veins on Dustless's forehead bulged. He almost could not help but go up and teach this disobedient girl a lesson. Didn't he always speak like this? When had he ever shouted? Then what about you? Dustless looked at Sylvia. The child's face instantly turned as red as a big apple. If it was in the past, Veronica would definitely have rejected him. Because at that time, she still wanted to marry Sylvia to her loyal subordinate, Gulian. You don't want to either, right? Dustless looked at Sylvia's embarrassed expression and asked indifferently. No, no. Sylvia hurriedly shook her head, afraid that Dustless would be angry. She explained, it's just that Dustless was embarrassed. He had wasted half a day, and this little girl did not say anything. It was probably because she was saved by Yashur Blake when she was young, right? It was just that Sylvia did not know the truth yet. If she knew that the child who saved her was Yashur Blake, and that he was standing against her, who knew what she would think? Since both of you are not willing, then that's fine. Dustless was not angry, and said extremely casually, I am not interested in this either. This way, everyone will be happy, and both of us will not have any, bam. Outrageous. Before Dustless could finish speaking, the bad-tempered Veronica slammed the table angrily and glared at Dustless furiously. She questioned in an unfriendly tone, "What right do you have to refuse? F***ck." Hearing that, Dustless was instantly dumbfounded. Motherf***, what kind of logic is this? It's fine if you refuse me, but I can't refuse you at all? This is worse than a bandit. Do you think that us two sisters are not worthy of you? Thinking of this, a cold light condensed in Veronica's eyes, and one of her hands even reached for the large sword hanging at her waist. Let me remind you, it's best not to use force. Have you forgotten what happened in the past? Dustless reminded with an evil smile, why don't we review it again? Humph. Veronica's body stiffened when she heard that, and the anger in her heart dissipated like a spring breeze. The thought of using force almost instantly disappeared. She had forgotten the difference in strength between them because of her anger. That's right, in front of the great demon king Dustless, the strength that she was so proud of was simply unbearable to look at. You still look down on me? Although she had given up the idea of using force, Veronica had no intention of stopping. She said furiously, I've changed my mind now, and I want to marry you. Veronica's words were like a super bomb. Dustless and Sylvia were blown up, and their brains couldn't wrap their heads around it for a moment. Chapter 58. Ferrito of Black was so angry that his roar shook the sky. If Keely was here at this moment, she definitely wouldn't mind tearing her into pieces and burning her bones to ashes. How did I raise such an ingrate? I should have killed her back then. Why aren't you doing it? Dustless provoked, if you don't do it, I'll cut you up and feed you to the fish. Leviathan of White's mouth twitched. He smiled but didn't say anything. If it was someone else, he would definitely snort. If it was Dustless, thinking of this, a part of his body started to hurt again. Dustless had tested a similar experience on him before. That was why Leviathan of White was so afraid of Dustless. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Ferrito of Black roared again and again. The moment he finished speaking, it was as if a legendary god had spoken. The void suddenly dimmed. Dustless and Leviathan of White both looked at the sky subconsciously. Both of their expressions changed. In the depths of the sky, a huge meteorite suddenly appeared and smashed toward the two of them. He can even create meteorites? Even though he knew that Ferrito of Black was abnormally powerful, Leviathan of White's eyelids still twitched when he saw the huge meteorite. Isn't this too much of a freak? Humph, are you scared out of your wits? Seeing Leviathan of White's shocked expression, Ferrito of Black was quite proud. He boasted, in this world, the only thing that I have scruples about is the green dragon. Speaking of this, his eyes were filled with endless heroism. The green dragon was temporarily eliminated. Didn't that mean that the world was right in front of him? But, the guy who can kill the green dragon, what kind of existence is he? Since when did such a person exist in this world? Ferrito of Black thought of the powerful existence that could kill the green dragon and suddenly had scruples in his heart. Because she had just been born, she didn't have time to investigate. So it's a meteorite. It does look good. Dustless also raised his head and looked at the huge meteorite falling from the sky. He said softly, it's created using superior elements, right? This ability is so convenient. It can even create life. Not only the meteorite that covered the sky, but even Keely was created by Black Frito using superior elements. Just because it looks good? Let alone a human like you, even a dragon can easily destroy a giant meteorite like this. Black Ferrito raised his head and puffed out his chest as he spoke loudly and confidently. You can't even withstand a single blow. Hearing this, Dustless curled his lips in disdain and mocked, I don't have anything to say. You're just a frog in a well. With that, Dustless pointed at the void. Wang Su's flash. Boom boom boom. A huge beam of light shot towards the sky at an extremely fast speed. It disappeared the moment it left Dustless's hand. Rumble. 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 A huge tremor came from the void, and the sky that had been darkened by the meteorites cleared up once again. Black Frito raised his head with a dumbfounded expression. The meteor that was a few kilometers in size had now turned into countless debris. Gulp. White Leviathan did not stop as he exclaimed, "Good, good, 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 good. It would be fine if it was just a small meteorite." Looking higher up in the sky, there was a huge boundless black hole in the void. It was also created by the power of void flash. It was obvious that the power of the meteorite was only a small part of it. Impossible. After Black Frito recovered from his shock, he screamed in disbelief as he shook his head, "This is definitely a trick. How can a mere human control this power that only gods can have?" Trick? Pfft. Dustless could not help but laugh as he looked at Black Frito playfully. "Are you here to be funny? You can even say something like a trick. Why don't you do one for me now?" Black Frito looked at Dustless silently as a strange light flashed in his eyes. After a while, he said, "Are you interested in cooperating with me?" "No." Dustless rejected him straightforwardly. He had heard similar words countless times. There was no such thing as cooperating when the situation was not good. Moreover, Black Frito gave Dustless a very bad impression. This kind of guy should be eliminated as soon as possible. Cooperation was complete nonsense. "Don't be in a hurry to reject me." Black Frito smiled confidently and said temptingly, "If you and I work together, taking down this world is a piece of cake. How about we split it in half?" "That's it?" Dustless looked even more disdainful. At the same time, he glanced at White Leviathan. This guy's expression was a little strange. White Leviathan had made the same condition in the past. "You idiot, did you lose your mind from the shock just now? How can Master Dustless agree to such a ridiculous condition?" White Leviathan was the first to speak as he mocked, "Even if you give the whole world to Master Dustless, he will definitely not be moved." "That's right." Dustless nodded. That was indeed what he meant. If he wanted to conquer the world, he would have done it long ago. There was no need to go through so much trouble to cooperate with others. It was too superfluous. Therefore, no matter what nonsense Black Frito said, it was impossible in Dustless's eyes. Because no matter what, it meant that it was impossible. It's not that easy to conquer the world. Although Green Dragon is temporarily dead, he won't die at all. There was a trace of hatred in Black Frito's eyes. He seemed to have a lot of resentment towards Green Dragon. He said, "Only I know where his real body is hidden." "There is such a thing as a real body?" A strange light flashed in Dustless's eyes. The green dragon that he killed before was just an existence that was entrenched in the body of Yuki Mobe. He didn't expect that a real body would suddenly appear. Forget it, it's all the same. Dustless didn't care anymore. After dealing with Black Frito, he used Rinnegan's dojutsu to search this guy's head. It's too simple. The power of Green Dragon is not something you can imagine. Black Frito shouted coldly because Dustless didn't take Green Dragon seriously. "If I can kill him once, I can kill him a second time. What's so difficult about that?" Dustless didn't take it to heart, but after he said that, the way Black Fletcher looked at him immediately changed. "You mean, you killed the Green Dragon before?" Black Frito's voice was choked. He looked quite shocked, and his eyes were wide open. In this world, besides Master Dustless, who else could it be? White Leviathan took the opportunity to flatter. As long as there was a chance, he wouldn't let it go easily. Damn it, no wonder he's so strong. Black Frito took a deep breath. He thought it was just a small fish, but he didn't expect to kick an iron plate this time. "I just killed him along the way," Dustless said calmly. It was really like that. If Green Dragon didn't take the initiative to jump up, Dustless would never find trouble with Green Dragon. In the end, it was the other party who was looking for trouble. It couldn't be blamed on him. "Don't tell me you're scared." Noticing that Black Frito suddenly became silent, the disdain on White Leviathan's face was even more obvious. He mocked, "You idiot, where did your confidence go? This sentence suddenly poked Black Frito's sore spot. He snorted and didn't reply. Instead, he stared at Dustless faintly. It wasn't hard to see that Black Frito was completely terrified at this moment. If she knew that the culprit who killed Green Dragon was Dustless, she wouldn't dare to provoke him even if she was beaten to death, because the difference in strength between them was like heaven and earth. One had to understand that Green Dragon was Black Frito's natural enemy, and Dustless killed her natural enemy. One could imagine how terrifying his strength was just by thinking about it. There was dead silence between heaven and earth. It was so quiet that it was a little depressing. Hee, you deserve it. Let's see what you're going to do. On the other side, White Leviathan raised the corner of his scary mouth, and his head revealed a gloating smile. This bastard, he used to bully me because he was strong. Now, he's stupid, right? Did he kick an iron plate? This bastard who was watching the show, he didn't even remind me. He must have done it on purpose. He wants to kill Green Dragon with a borrowed knife. Does he want to kill Green Dragon with a borrowed knife? Black Frito was so angry that his ferocious face twitched. You're also very scheming. Dustless's gaze suddenly fell on White Leviathan, and he said directly, I've killed him. There's nothing in this world that can stop you, right? Dustless suddenly remembered the words of the Dean of the Academy. No matter what kind of dragon it was, they all had the ambition to rule the world. They all saw their own kind as a thorn in their side and a thorn in their flesh. Since Black Dragon wanted to kill White Leviathan, why would White Leviathan not want to borrow Dustless's hands to kill Black Dragon? In this way, there would be nothing that could stop him from occupying the world. I wouldn't dare. White Leviathan was not stupid. Naturally, he could hear the implied meaning in Dustless's words. He quickly denied and admitted his mistake. If this big boss saw any clues, he would definitely kill him too. Unfortunately, there's no place in this world where you can have a foothold. Dustless looked at White Leviathan and said directly, I've already given the ruling rights of this world to Grey Dragon. You're on your own in the future. Hearing this, White Leviathan's huge body stiffened slightly, and the air froze for a moment. Grey Dragon was an independent and special existence. Although he was a dragon, he lived in the form of a human, just like how Loki did not recognize him as a dragon at all. Everything that happened before was a misunderstanding. Black Frito said awkwardly. His dragon eyes stared at Dustless, and his tone was apologetic. He said faintly, I don't plan to be your enemy. Is that so? I'm sorry. Dustless's tone was cold, and he said impolitely, I plan to be your enemy. Previously, Keely had asked Dustless to kill Black Frito. It would have been fine if he hadn't met him. Now that this guy was right in front of him, how could Dustless just watch Black Frito leave? No way. If he let this guy go, it would be hard to explain to Keely. I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. You don't know what's good for you. Black Frito's eyes were spitting fire, and her eye sockets were about to burst. She felt that she had already given enough face to Dustless. She had even addressed him as you, but this guy still wouldn't let her go. Why? Black Frito and Dustless didn't have any grudges. At most, we'll fight to the death. Black Frito kept roaring, and his body was emitting a biting cold aura and madness of perishing together. However, this guy still didn't dare to make a move. It could be seen that he was just talking nonsense. Are you afraid of death? Dustless sneered and said with disdain, since you're not moving, then I'm coming, whoosh whoosh whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Dustless turned into a beam of light and shot out. In an instant, he disappeared from Black Frito's sight. This freak, how can a human have this kind of power? He's so fast. Black Frito's eyes were twitching wildly, and she couldn't stop blinking. Dustless's speed was so fast that she couldn't see him clearly with her naked eyes. Idiot, I'm behind you. A teasing voice came from behind. Black Frito's big eyes were open to the maximum extent, and they were about to fall out of his eye sockets. In front of his line of sight, a Dustless suddenly appeared. That's just a shadow clone used to confuse you. As soon as Dustless finished speaking, there were a few bang 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 sounds. In Black Frito's eyes, Dustless turned into a piece of wood, lightspeed kick. A pure golden shining foot fell down like Mount Tai, and the position was exactly on top of Black Frito's head. Boom! Black Frito spat out a big mouthful of blood on the spot. Under this huge force, his body was blasted vertically into the ocean. Splash! There were huge waves on the ocean, and a large amount of seawater surged in all directions. As expected of Dustless Sama, even if the opponent is the Black Dragon, it's not at all an opponent of the same level. The students of Midgard Academy, who came by boat in the distance, were surprised. When they saw Black Frito being kicked into the sea, they all grinned and chuckled. The most obvious one was Keely. Her eyes narrowed into two lines. Even though Black Frito had created her, he had abandoned her just because she failed a certain mission. He was extremely heartless. He shouldn't be so fragile. I still want to play more. That kick didn't scare me to death. As Wu Chen looked at the calm sea surface that was deathly silent, he thought to himself, he shouldn't have really died, right? His skin shouldn't be that brittle. After a few minutes, Black Frito, who was kicked into the deep sea, still didn't move, as if he was dead. Still playing dead? Dustless released his observation hockey, and the sea area within a radius of tens of kilometers was included in his perception. Found it. His lightly closed eyes suddenly opened. Wu Chen looked into the distance with a soul-sucking light floating in his eyes. You don't know the difference between life and death. Do you feel sad that I didn't cut you into 8 pieces? Whiz whiz whiz. Without saying a word, Dustless once again turned into a light and swooped out, leaving a straight golden line in the sky. That guy seems to be crazy. White Leviathan was stunned, and his eyes followed the place where Dustless disappeared, and a small cruise ship appeared in front of him. Black Frito knew that the gap between him and Dustless was too big, so he decisively chose other opponents. The target was the people of Midgard Academy. Compared with Dustless, this group of people was simply a soft lamb. Plop! The sea near the cruise ship exploded, and waves of tens of meters high rushed into the sky, and the sea began to shake violently. All this happened so suddenly that the moment the sea hit the cruise ship, it almost overturned it. What's the situation? These naive little girls all cried out in fear. Many of them even fell down, their noses bruised and their faces swollen. Someone attacked us, be careful. The dean showed a dignified look and ran to the deck to look at the sea under the deep sea. In a trance, he saw a fast-moving black shadow. This shameless guy, he can't beat Dustless, so he came to bully the weak? The dean clenched his fists and scolded Black Frito for being shameless and despicable. Although he didn't see the real murderer, who else could it be except for Black Frito? Bang bang bang. The blue sea exploded again, and the water column rushed to the sky, and a dark figure flew out with the waves. I'm shameless? Isn't that guy shameless? Isn't he bullying the weak? Black Frito's voice was extremely hoarse, and his eyes were red, full of great resentment. Looking around, he didn't look as majestic as before. First of all, the pair of black wings had been burned to ashes by the Tensho. Secondly, he was kicked by Dustless just now. Black Frito's head was caved in, and the footprint was particularly obvious. Even without his wings, Black Frito used his own strength to step on the sea with his hind legs. Chapter 59. How could he resist such a powerful attack with just a finger? Are we all living in a telepathic world? The hearts of all the spectators were filled with doubts as they looked at Wu Chen's tender body. He was not tall and his body was not strong. However, under such an ordinary body, there was an absolute power hidden. Whoosh! 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 The black blade pierced through Artie's body and cut him into 8 pieces effortlessly. His limbs and the metal wings on his back were all shredded into pieces. Bang, Artie's body parts fell to the ground. His giant arm was so heavy that it created a deep hole in the ground. How did he cut through such a thick armor? Is he even human? The audience was stunned. They looked at Artie's body parts on the ground. Artie's armor was as thick as an arm, but it was still cut into pieces by the black coffin. Many people were so shocked that they started to doubt their lives. Bang! 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 Artie's body parts fell to the ground one after another. His tall and mighty figure collapsed, and there was a pile of stone-sized debris on the ground. I lost. Artie's head was not destroyed. He could still talk, but his voice was full of disappointment. It seems that I'm not strong enough. Dustless was not happy or sad, nor did he have the pride of a victor. He said coldly, "You're wrong. It's not that you're not strong enough. In fact, you're already very strong. Your only fatal mistake is that you chose the wrong opponent." Dustless said nothing. A high-density energy ball jumped out of his hand. Boom! 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 Artie's body parts were blasted into pieces. The fire burned everything, and his body was completely destroyed. "Do you want to surrender or do you want me to do it?" Dustless stared at Rimsey calmly. She didn't flinch and looked at Camilla and Inesta. As a shape-shifted being, she wouldn't be afraid and would go through fire and water with a simple command. "We've lost." Inesta lowered her head, dejected. "I admit defeat." Rimsey destroyed her school badge. "The competition is over. Contestant Dustless from Star Guide Academy and contestant Ulis won this competition." This was a very exciting competition. The commentator's excited voice echoed in everyone's ears. Although Artie had been destroyed, which was the same as being killed, no one would care about his life since he was just an impersonation. To put it bluntly, it was just a bunch of data. After the end of the competition, Dustless and Ulis had undoubtedly become stars. They were like stars surrounding the moon. Next was the last competition, and the contestant they were about to face was the strongest witch in history, Alphalia. When they returned, Dustless and the others were not happy at all even though they had won the competition. "What? Flora is missing? Who did it?" After returning to the lounge, Ulysses looked at Claudia and the others as if she had been struck by lightning. It seems that some things are unavoidable. No matter what, they will still happen. Wuchen rubbed his temples with a headache and asked, "Are there any clues?" "It's Tian Wuyao." Claudia explained, "I received a call from her earlier. She wants to fight to the death with you. If you refuse, she will kill the hostage." "What a rascal." Ulysses' beautiful eyes spewed out scorching flames. "All right. Since she took the initiative to come to me, I don't need to look for her." Dustless agreed readily. "Actually, that woman is not bad. Unfortunately, she has a brother complex. I killed Tian Wuyao, so we are destined to be enemies." Dustless sighed and said with a regretful tone. At the same time, a cold light flashed in his eyes. "Since she is an enemy, I can't do anything about it. I will be in charge of contacting her." Claudia turned and left, leaving only Dustless and Ulysses in the lounge. "Don't worry. Tian Wuyao is not the kind of terrorist who would kill innocent people. Otherwise, she would have killed Flora long ago." Dustless stroked Ulysses' pink hair that hung down to her waist. He patted the young girl's shoulder and comforted, "I can guarantee this." Frankly speaking, even if there was a problem, there was still the outer Tao, reincarnation of heaven, to revive. About 30 minutes later, Claudia returned. The time of the battle to the death was set for tonight. That woman couldn't wait to take Dustless's head. In the evening, the sky was cold. According to the appointed location, Dustless came to a deserted area. There were all kinds of damaged buildings all around. After being washed by the rain, they were full of cracks. Looking around, there wasn't a single person within a few hundred meters. She really picked a good location. "I almost got lost." Dustless stood on an abandoned building. The night was pitch black, and he couldn't see anything clearly. Buzz buzz buzz. A chill suddenly surged behind his back. Dustless immediately felt as if he had fallen into an icy hell. He turned his head slightly and saw a figure flickering in the darkness. As someone who had experienced hundreds of battles, he knew that this was the purest killing intent. Where is Flora? Dustless looked at the face of the black figure and asked. I released her long ago. My target is you. The young girl's voice was as cold as ice. She held a sharp katana in her hand, and her whole body was emitting a threatening aura. Is that so? Actually, you don't need to capture people to threaten me. As long as you challenge me to a battle, I will come out. Dustless's eyes instantly turned scarlet. Actually, I am the same as you. I don't intend to let you go. After saying that, Dustless released a huge amount of killing intent and pounced on Tian Weiyao like a storm. This woman had a brother complex, and it was a fact that he had killed Tian Weiyao. There was no way for the two of them to bury the hatchet. He could only ruthlessly destroy this flower. P.S. 3,000 fresh flowers plus updates, 3,000 tips plus updates, 1,000 comments plus updates, 500 automatic subscriptions plus updates. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.